let's talk about this show. God, this. And people have been saying in the chat, and I tend to agree. This might be one of the best shows, Raws, in a long time, and I feel like we're saying this quite a lot. Even Master Cannoli, who's lurking 9 to 5.
That's a song, isn't it? Lurking 9 to 5.
What a way to make lurking. I'm gonna start with our main event here. I'm gonna start with Chad Gable and the Creed brothers versus the Wyatt Sicks. We start with Chad Gable saying they're dropping Alpha Academy's name and giving it to Maxine. Maxine's upset at her friend Ivy Nile for siding with Gable. We get Joe Gacy's video, and American Made is the new name of this Creed brothers group. But the match is what we want to get to here. 6-person tag. We get moments from everyone at some point, but it's Wyatt Sicks who gets the win. This was a big moment, Justin. A lot of people have been wondering what this team is going to look like once they're in the ring. How did they fare, in your opinion?
I thought overall this was a win. This was a hit. I took a lot of things away. They managed to tighten up a lot of little details that I was wondering. From Chad Gable saying you can keep the name Alpha Academy, and then they're American Made, and so we get that. We get the Wyatt Sicks in-ring debut. They come out. Commentary did a lot. Commentary, and maybe they dropped little hints here and there, but they were very blunt and saying, here is Dexter Lumis, who thinks he's Mercy the Buzzard. Here's Joe Gacy, who thinks he's Huskus. Here's Abigail the Witch, and I think they then said Nikki Cross. If you caught this, they referred to Uncle Howdy at one point as they were narrating about Uncle Howdy. They said Uncle Howdy is Bray's brother. So while he has the name Uncle, they acknowledge that the person that embodies Uncle Howdy is, of course, Bray Wyatt's brother. So this was good because it they weren't ignoring, acknowledge Eric Rowan as part of the original Wyatt family. Michael Cole noted on commentary. I did it on Twitter earlier the day. They're in Baltimore tonight. That was where the original Wyatt family of Wyatt, Rowan, and Harper first debuted. So there was a lot here that was really good. I thought overall this was good. The 3 Wyatt Sicks members, they still had to sell a little bit. There was still some heat spots to where they had to sell. They had to be vulnerable. They had to be mortal. I thought it came off. The crowd did a lot here. The crowd was chanting. This is awesome. The crowd did a lot to make this work. If the crowd was on their sat on their hands, or God forbid, if they would have started chanting boring or throwing a beach ball around, different story. But they were with this. So it felt like this came across to the television audience that, okay, these are mortal men, again, tortured souls. They come from a weird place that we can't relate to, but mortal. Heat could be done. They won a match. So overall, good. But I still am left with the, okay, so we fought Chad Gable and his new cronies, and Chad's very disliked. Chad didn't appreciate his former family in the Alpha Academy with Otis and company. What's next? I'll be really curious. What's next? Who's the next person of interest for the Wyatt Sicks to have a problem with? And let's keep it in the regulation bounds of mortality, without being too supernatural.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love I feel like commentary, that line, I quoted it here in my notes. Dexter Lumis, who believes he's Mercy the Buzzard. That one line, and he said this about everybody at some point, explains so much to me. And I go, I get it. Okay, I understand what this is. I understand exactly what this is now. I have no questions. I'm not like, why are they ghosts or whatever? I get it. It's a sick person who believes he's this fictional character. That's the power of commentary, really, and how little lines like that can bring the entire story together. And one of the reasons why Michael Cole is so good at it. Jimmy, your thoughts on this debut, and do you think that they should be done with American Made? Or do you think there's more story to pull from this, or is it time for them to move on?
I think it's possible for them to do more with American Made, depending on what happens next week and how American Made reacts to what happened tonight. It's all, again, wait and see, and again, like Justin said, who are you going to have next in line for them? Who is going to be their target if this is over and done with? It's over and done in one shot. We talk about sometimes hot shot angles and stuff like that. Yes, they've been chasing Chad Gable for a couple of weeks now, or maybe even close to a month now, if not. But if it's a one match and done, I'm not on board with that. I'd like to see a little bit more and see Chad Gable get a little bit upset about this and want to get a little retribution. As far as their debut goes, they started chanting, "This is awesome," Justin, right when they locked up in a fight. They started off in a pure sixer and it broke down into a wrestling match, which was, kind of the opposite way that it
which
happens.
I loved.
Yeah, no, it broke down and then they got it back together. And little things that matter for me, coming from the world of the rules matter. The match officially didn't start until it was calmed down and we got them in the ring, and two competitors in the ring, and little things like that. The only issue I had was with the ending. I wish they would have came up with something other than a frog splash for the finish, only because what we're going to get to pretty soon, what we saw earlier in the night. That's the only reason I would have wished they had come up with something a little more creative and different.
Justin, before we move on, this was something Flobo actually had mentioned. I'm going to give him credit for it. He texted me, we were chatting back and forth what was happening. I mean this respectfully, but I thought this was a really interesting observation. I'm going to ask you to time travel a couple times tonight, Justin, so get ready. I hope you don't get sick going back and forth through time, but this time I want you to go back to 2019 and imagine telling yourself that you were going to see a Gunther Randy Orton world title confrontation, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins in a confrontation, all these things we saw, but you are going to see Eric Rowan and Chad Gable in the highly anticipated main event that got This Is Awesome chance and felt like the main event. Again, going back to when we had Mechanical Spider and Shorty G running around. It's crazy how this can change.
It is, and to even take it back, and I'm a huge fan of I'm a fan of Eric Rowan, the character, and where he's at now, and what he legitimately has gone through in losing two close brothers. But even the man behind it, I'm a big fan of him. And what's crazy is when they were putting the Wyatt family together, this is going back to the NXT days, Eric Rowan was the odd man out. He was the one who the office was not sure if he was the right guy for it. And there were some other names that were tossed around. I won't mention them, but bottom line is I agree with that time travel. I love the fact that he got to be part of the Wyatt family. The presentation, him with the goat mask and everything. The history, the present, everything's great. It lives on in infamy. It's tragic, obviously, that we've lost the other two. So it is great that here we are in 2024, after all the trial and error that the Wyatt brand has gone through, some of which was under Vince's creative of like, we're having the Fiend lose in a Hell in a Cell match to this, to everything that's going on. It's awesome to see that Eric Rowan is part of this redemption/tribute project. And then, Chad Gable, who, could easily be written off as, whatever. It's great to see this. It really is. Again, I go back to, this is great to see. I want to see how many miles they're going to get out of this. And look, creative has proven up to this point that they have a plan, and they have Rob. I think his name is Rob Fee. I hope I have that right. He's the guy who's been kind of the long-term creative, who was with Bray when Bray was still alive. I think he's still very active to this. So they obviously have people assigned to this project to fill in those gaps. Hey, what's commentary going to say? They're going to acknowledge that Joe Gacy thinks that he's Huskus, and he's going to do the upside down gimmick like Bray used to. And so it seems like they are filling in these holes that might otherwise have been, overlooked. But I'm still just, when you're dealing with this walk the line of supernatural, human, and we're paying tribute to a very real thing, which is a character and a man was lost I don't know where we're at come WrestleMania next year with this group. Hope they're around, but I don't know where it goes. This is a huge wild card for me.
Yeah, I've always said, I feel like every week I'm like, well, they're gonna have to prove that it's gonna work, and then every week, it worked this week. They did it. They did great. So I know there's some people in the chat who are a little bit skeptical of how they've done things. Personally, I've been skeptical, and every week I go, you know what? They prove themselves right.